My nurse grabbed my arm and whispered, "The doctor that just examined you doesn't work at this hospital." I was still lying in the hospital bed with the gown half open when she said it. The man in the white coat had left my room less than 2 minutes ago. He'd checked my vitals, asked about my medical history, and told me my appendectomy was scheduled for the following morning. Everything seemed completely normal until this nurse appeared with terror in her eyes. Her name tag read Danielle, and she was already pulling the privacy curtain closed with trembling hands. "What do you mean he doesn't work here?" She pressed her finger to her lips and pulled out her phone, showing me the hospital's internal staff directory. "I've worked this floor for 6 years. I know every surgeon, every resident, every attending. That man isn't in our system." My stomach dropped as I realized the implications. I'd been admitted 3 hours earlier for severe abdominal pain. The ER diagnosed acute appendicitis and moved me to a pre-op room on the surgical floor. The man who examined me had introduced himself as Dr. William Ashford, said he'd be performing my surgery in the morning. He wore a hospital ID badge. He had a stethoscope around his neck. He knew medical terminology and asked all the right questions. But Danielle was now showing me the surgical department roster, scrolling through every name. No William Ashford. No one even close. "He took your insurance card," she whispered. I saw him photograph both sides before he gave it back. I patted my belongings bag on the side table. My wallet was there. My insurance card was inside. But I suddenly remembered him holding it up to the light, tilting it at an angle I thought was strange. Danielle called hospital security while I searched my memory for anything else unusual. The fake doctor had asked about my emergency contacts, my home address, whether I lived alone. Questions that seemed routine during admission, but now felt like reconnaissance. Security arrived within minutes. 2 officers who immediately reviewed the floor's camera footage on a tablet. They found him entering through a staff entrance using a badge that triggered no alarms. The badge was a perfect replica of the hospital's ID system, complete with holographic seal. "This is sophisticated," one officer muttered. "This isn't some random guy in a costume." They tracked his movements through the hospital. He'd visited 4 other patient rooms before mine, all pre-surgical patients, all scheduled for procedures the next day. The officers contacted the other patients, and what they discovered made my blood run cold. Every single one of us had high-value insurance plans. Every single one of us had been asked the same personal questions. One patient, an older woman down the hall, said the fake doctor had examined a mole on her shoulder and taken close-up photographs for her medical file, a file that didn't exist. Another patient said he'd drawn blood for routine pre-op testing. Testing that was never ordered. Security found the vials in a biohazard bin near the elevator, but 2 were missing. "He's harvesting information," Danielle said quietly. "Insurance details, medical data, blood samples. This is identity theft on a medical level." But it got worse. The security footage showed him leaving the building 12 minutes before we discovered him. He was already gone. I called my insurance company from the hospital bed, hands shaking as I navigated their automated system. A representative finally answered, and I explained the situation. She put me on hold for 8 minutes. When she came back, her voice was different. "Sir, we've flagged some unusual activity on your account. Someone had filed a prior authorization request for a spinal fusion surgery at a facility in another state. The request was submitted 45 minutes ago, while I was lying in this bed with appendicitis. The estimated claim value was $380,000. They'd used my policy number, my date of birth, my social security number, information the fake doctor had collected during his examination. "We're freezing your account immediately," she said, "but you need to file a police report tonight." I was already dialing before she finished speaking. The police arrived and took my statement while hospital administration scrambled to understand how their security had been breached. The badge the imposter used was traced to a batch reported stolen from a medical conference 6 months earlier. Investigators found similar cases at 3 other hospitals in the region. Same method, same targeting of pre-surgical patients with premium insurance, same phantom claims filed within hours of the fake examinations. The FBI got involved when they realized the scope. This wasn't one person, it was a network. They were stealing identities, filing massive insurance claims for surgeries that never happened, and collecting payments through shell companies before anyone noticed. My case helped them identify a pattern they'd been tracking for months. They caught him 11 days later at a hospital across the state, wearing a different badge with a different name. Security footage from my hospital matched his face to a suspect the FBI had been pursuing for 18 months. His real name was Gerald Whitmore, and he was part of a medical fraud ring that had stolen over $12 million through fake insurance claims. The blood samples he collected were sold to black market labs for genetic testing fraud. The personal information was packaged and sold to identity thieves overseas. My insurance card photo alone would have been worth $2,000 on the dark web. Danielle's instinct to check the staff directory probably saved me from years of financial devastation. Gerald Whitmore received 14 years in federal prison, and the FBI dismantled the entire network using evidence from my case. My appendectomy was performed successfully the next morning by an actual surgeon whose credentials I personally verified 3 times. Danielle received a commendation from hospital administration and a raise she'd been denied for 2 years. I sent her flowers every year on the anniversary of the day she grabbed my arm and whispered something that changed everything.